Welcome to Zombie Advisor with James Knapp, the only podcast where being undead isn't an excuse for being unresponsive. This is the space where financial advisors and clients come together to break free from the old, slow-moving reactionary system. Tune in as we shake the dust off of outdated practices, dissect what really matters to today's clients, and tap into the brains of industry leaders who are actually alive, alert, and crushing it.
Welcome to Zombie Advisor, coming to you from St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm your host, James Knapp, and today we have a great guest for you. Our special guest is a fixed income portfolio manager. He has over 25 years of experience in the fixed income markets, ranging from Delaware Investments, MetLife, and now Seaport Global. He's also a friend of mine. Welcome, Andrew Kronschnabel.
Thanks, James. I really appreciate you having me on the pod today.
Excited it's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you.
But first, let's review the daily stats. So today's weather in the Twin Cities is a balmy 28 degrees. And today is January 7th. And on this day in market history, the worst performing day that happened was in 2009. Bad day, right?
I remember that day.
The Dow Jones dropped 2.72%. Welcome to the show, Andy. So before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you became a portfolio manager?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I became a portfolio manager through an internship in college at UBS on the sell side. So I interned for a fixed income salesman. Through that internship, I got to know a buy side team at Delaware Investments. And when I graduated college, they invited me to come out and join Delaware Investments with them in Philadelphia.
So you were in Denver at the beginning?
I was in Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs.
Yeah. I went to school at Colorado College. I was in Colorado Springs, interned in Chicago, and then wound up in Philadelphia and ended up there over 20 years.
So you started at Delaware and then you worked at MetLife. Did they buy you?
So we started at Delaware Investments. We built our institutional fixed income business. For those that don't know, institutional fixed income business is different than me and you and individual investors.
Yeah, the retail side.
The retail side. We managed bond portfolios for clients like General Motors or State of New York or State of New Jersey, and Taft-Hartley plans, which are union plans, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. So very large portfolios for institutional type clients. And we built that business to about $12 to $13 billion assets under management, which in that world is actually really quite small.
Right.
Competing against the PIMCOs and the BlackRocks and the PGIMs of the world. We actually did a lift out of our institutional fixed income team from Delaware Investments, private equity backed, in November of 2007, and formed a company called Logan Circle Partners. And we were small. We took all 12 to 13 billion of those assets with us and started our company, Logan Circle Partners, on November 1st, 2007.
Bad timing.
Bad timing. Maybe the worst timing to start, a fledgling business. Yeah. And it was quite challenging. We went through periods where we didn't know if, we'd keep the lights on at the place. But we got through it. We stabilized it. We ultimately grew the business up to about 35 billion by 2017. And then MetLife came in and bought us at that point. I stayed at MetLife for another about 5 years and then moved back here to Minnesota to send my kids to high school here. And that's when I started working for Seaport Global. And over the last couple of years, I've been managing from an executive and business development standpoint, 2 asset managers for Seaport Global.
Okay. So we talk oftentimes about institutional versus retail.
Correct.
And very different worlds. Very, very different worlds. Institutional, in your world, in your eyes, what's the difference?
Well, on the institutional side, we were very narrowly focused on a slice of the client portfolio.
Right.
We had the bond component, and a lot of times we only had maybe a piece of the bond component.
Right.
Where there were other managers managing maybe the emerging market part or the high yield or junk bond part, and there were other managers that were managing the equity part or real estate or whatever investments they had. So we were very narrowly focused on our little part of the portfolio.
Right.
Where, as a retail advisor, and you know this better than I do, you have to have a much more comprehensive view of your clients' finances, their financial picture,
right.
And where, all their assets lie.
Yeah, it's very different. We take what you do and then put it together with other people like you. Yeah. One of the things that happened, you and I became friends, I don't know, a year and a half ago, it seemed like now.
Mhm.
And so we started working in the same office, which has been a lot of fun. One of the stories that you told me was about a zombie advisor that happened to you. So take me through how you found your advisor, what you worked on with your advisor, and then when you realized, the moment that you realized you had a zombie on your hands.
It's a funny and unfortunate story.
Yes.
Some lessons learned.
Laughing at you, not with you.
That's fine. We've laughed together about this.
Yes.
Oftentimes, these lessons learned are costly lessons. I found myself in 2012 or 13, doing my taxes with actually someone locally here that I used, even though I lived in Philadelphia. And despite having gone through the process of the CFA, it just wasn't a focus of mine, managing my own money and thinking about tax advantage strategies. It just wasn't in my daily bailiwick. So it wasn't something that I was focused on.
Sure.
So I asked my tax planner, what I should do. How can I most effectively invest my money, save my money, tax shield my money to the extent that I could, which there weren't a lot of options at that point. And he said, "Oh, great. Well, I'll put you in touch with my colleague. He's an advisor here." And I spoke with the guy, and he got my story. And mind you, at this time, I'm in my low 30s. I have 2 children. At that point, we had kind of gotten the pig through the snake of our really difficult time at Logan Circle.
Yeah.
So I was making reasonable salary, reasonable income. And looking back on it now, I had an extraordinary ability to take risk. I think my problem at the point was I didn't have a willingness to take risk.
Okay.
And I think a lot of that was formed from the experiences that I had to date. I started in the industry right on the eve of the .com bust.
Right. September of 2000.
Saw that recession. Saw 9/11.
Yes.
And then worked a few more years, started our own company, went right into the
greatest recession,
global financial crisis, where, my professional uncertainty was really, really high.
Yes.
And so through those experiences, I probably learned a lesson I probably shouldn't have learned, was that my livelihood was tied at the hip with the markets.
Right.
And mind you, too, I was a bond portfolio manager and an investment grade bond portfolio manager. So those are assets that are generally 100 cents on the dollar.
Right.
And your best upside is getting your coupon. For your audience, that'd be like if I loaned you $100 and I said, "Hey, I want 6% interest," you would give me $6 every year.
Yep.
For 5 years, and at the end, you'd give me my $100 back and my last 6, and that's kind of what you're going to get. So it's all downside.
Right.
So I'd gone through this lived experience at a young age of seeing a lot of volatility in the markets, and what I needed at that point was an advisor to tell me, "Hey, you should have more willingness to take risk."
Yes.
So I explained this to the advisor, and he said, "Okay, great. You should do a whole life policy."
What? Yeah. Wait, time out. Whole life is like buying investment grade bonds.
It's exactly what it is.
Yes.
It was a whole life policy from one of the big insurers. The return on it, when we started, and by the way, this is going into ZIRP.
Right.
So
wait, what does that mean?
Zero interest rate policies when the Fed cut rates to very low levels and kept them there forever, and interest rates were quite low. And for the audience, when you're in a whole life policy, you basically get the return of what the general account of the insurance company is. And at that time, it was, I think, about 4%, give or take.
Yeah, it's usually the floor.
Yeah, it would move up and down. There was a floor on it. I don't recall what it was. But he introduced me to his insurance guy, and there must have been, pretty significant commission on these policies.
Yes,
because the insurance guy, talked me into this policy. It was going to be a 7 or 8 year policy where you had to fund it with a pretty significant amount every year.
7 pay is what it's called.
Yeah. And they gave me this illustration. And if you can get a guest on here that could walk you through an illustration, an insurance illustration, God bless you.
We needed 3 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm an unintelligent person, but I could not really understand that. And, this was a tax advisor that I trusted, who I asked to put me in front of someone that he trusted, who put me in touch with their insurance person. And then I wound up with this policy.
Right.
In retrospect, and I know you can't Monday morning quarterback the financial markets.
Right.
But in retrospect, it was not the worst. I mean, there were a lot of bad decisions you could have made, but it wasn't the optimal decision. At that point, I should have, again, with the benefit of hindsight, I should have been dollar cost averaging into basically just equities.
You could have bought the triple Q.
I could have bought the triple Q. I could have anything.
SPY
actually might have been better.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I funded that policy all the way up. And every year I wrote the check. And I was very angry when I wrote that check every year because I would get the illustration, I would get the statement, I would see what the cost of insurance was. And there were a lot more efficient ways for me to get the insurance coverage that I needed at that time, especially as a young person. I was in phenomenal shape, triple excellent, whatever that categorization is. Super preferred. Thank you.
But you're also doing Ironman.
I was doing a couple Ironmans a year. They came and took my blood and gave me a physical, and they're like, "Yeah, you're fine.
You're fine."
Yeah. So there were other options that I should have and ultimately did consider and put into place. And I funded this policy, and it funded all the way up. And then I would get the statement for a couple of years. I would see that the cost of insurance was increasing. Now the benefit was increasing too.
Sure.
But they're just policies that probably weren't appropriate for me at the time.
No.
And when I really realized that I had been put in touch with someone that wasn't taking a comprehensive approach or view of my situation and what my goals were, was about a week after I wrote that first check for the policy. I got an email, and it was a form email from the insurance salesperson guy to all his clients, thanking him for their business and notifying him that he was going to retire. And this is the person that you should talk to from now on. So that my policy was that guy's swan song.
Oh my God.
And, I was quite angry. And
yes,
especially
terrible.
when I saw the commission that was paid to him on that. And, it was just really frustrating. And I wish I would have had an advisor that, would have educated me a little bit better, even though I was in the financial markets. I am a CFA charter holder. I should have known that. But I think my learned experience of what I'd seen earlier in my career just had me, really risk averse.
Hold up. Just a quick pause in the zombie action. You're listening to Zombie Advisor, and I'm so pumped you're here. Got a question? Want to challenge something I said? Head over to boyumwa.com or hit the show notes to find me. Don't be shy. I'm not actually undead.
I think it goes back to what you said. When you're a portfolio manager, you have one sleeve that you're looking at. You're looking at institutional grade bonds, or your partner's looking at high grade bonds, or another partner's looking at municipal bonds, or somebody's looking at preferred stocks, or whatever it could be, catastrophic bonds. I mean, we talked about those the other day.
Yes.
Cat bonds are in different, that will be a whole different podcast that we talk about someday. But your sleeves are what we work with when we deal with the client and what their needs are. Our job is to be unemotional and history students. So we could have looked back and said, coming through what we are in, given the zero interest rate environment that we expect to be in for a while, because Bernanke kind of set that stage, right?
Sure did.
And we knew that we were going to be in a low interest rate environment for a long time because we had very low inflation. There was a lot of things that were happening. The markets were actually just starting to turn over at that point. I mean, the bottom was like 2009, but we thought we were going back into recession in 2011, if you remember those days. I started my business in 2012, so I waited because it's easier to start a business in an expanding market versus starting in 2007 when it's contracting. It's very difficult that you even made it through that period of time. It's kind of amazing, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's like knock on wood.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, you were one of very few probably that actually made it. But when we talk about the zombie advisor, one person was looking myopically at what they could sell you.
Correct.
So if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail is the same what we use. So they saw a whole life policy sale and didn't look at we could do term and invest the difference into a brokerage account. You were talking about taxes. So they were worried about taxes. Well, we get, tax-free distributions or loans against that policy. That was probably something that was sold to you.
Correct.
This sounds great. I have this money. It's going to grow tax deferred. I can pull the money out in a loan. The IRS gives us this ability to take a loan tax-free against a policy that will probably supplement, maybe is the word they were using, for your retirement. I'm guessing. We haven't really talked about that, but that's a guess.
Yep.
This policy might have $1 million in it someday, or $2 million in it. You can pull $100,000 off a year. Look how great this is performing for you when you hit 60. I don't know if you had talked to your advisor about when you were going to retire or if they'd even done a risk tolerance questionnaire for you.
No, we didn't do a risk tolerance questionnaire, and the retirement question, quite frankly, at that time I'm sure in your world would have been appropriate, but was the farthest thing from my mind.
Yeah, you were making money. You were just trying to protect your income. Probably were more worried about taxes, biggest expense in your life at that point. Living in Philly, making up money, trying to figure out how to shelter as much income as you could.
I was worried about taxes and I was worried about the downside. I'd seen people get wiped out twice.
Yeah, personally witnessed people
get wiped out twice. I would have colleagues in New York City, maybe they live in Greenwich, Connecticut. Maybe they make $1 million a year.
For sure.
You live in New York City and live in Greenwich, you make $1 million a year. You're taking home 450,000 of that.
Right.
You might have 3 kids in private school,
right.
Had 50 grand a crack.
Yeah.
Like another 150 grand on your mortgage and your taxes.
Right.
You're actually not winding up with very much money.
No.
And I would see people in that situation lose their jobs. I saw people from Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, other asset managers lose their jobs.
Yes.
And I can tell you, it's not very easy to replicate $1 million a year job.
No.
If all of a sudden that goes away and you've blown it all. Maybe you got a house out in the Hamptons.
Right.
You've got a BMW 7 Series and your wife's driving a Land Rover. Like these guys had big trains they were towing.
Yeah.
And again, I saw that happen. I saw it happen more than one time.
Yes.
I saw it happen multiple times in multiple cycles. And that left a deep impression on me.
For sure. And you're a Midwestern kid too, right? You can't get that. You're from Minnesota, so you have the Midwestern roots and values that are ingrained in you. Minnesotans by trade stick their head down, tithe, and don't tell anybody how much they put in there. They never talk about money, and we all sit in the back and worry about it every day. I mean, that's sort of how Minnesota works. When we think about being a fiduciary and what that means to you guys, in the real world, we have to put our interest ahead of yours. We have to take your resources and pretend that they're ours, and then take our knowledge and skill set and say, this is what we would do in this situation. When you have been around our office now for a while, you're starting to see the retail side is actually as fun as the institutional side, probably, or more, because we get to deal with a lot of different areas that you don't even consider on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, no, that's correct. And, I'd tell you that having been on the institutional side for, over 20 years, there gets to be, this sense that the retail advisor, and, part of this was my experience with the retail advisor that I use,
for sure,
are, just these monkeys that are working in, an office of, not use names, but XYZ advisor that you see on every block and in every mall. And, their mandate is to just grow AUM. And they have a branch manager telling them they need to grow assets under management and increase their book, and then they'll move and get a big payout. Well, that's your money too.
Right.
But being here and being in the office and the proximity to you and your team, it's really opened my eyes to a different way to do it, and really a better way to do it. I'm not trying to be here and sell your listeners on your services, but to just take it anecdotally, a very close friend of mine called me a couple weeks ago and asked to meet up and talk about her career.
Right.
And she's on the institutional side, a little bit different, nuanced business, but it's not working out.
Right.
She's given it a chance for 4 or 5 years. And one of the opportunities she's had is that an advisor similar to yours. I call an independent advisor. And she was very reluctant to even have conversations with them because of this reputation that in a lot of ways I think has been earned.
Yes, we've earned it. Yes, we've earned it.
And not you per se, but people in the industry. And she was very reluctant to have that conversation. And I think given the benefit of the perspective I've had over the past year of working with you and seeing your team, I just told her, I said, hey, don't discount it. Like, it's a really interesting area of the market. If you're not closed into growing your book, not thinking about the investments. Right. I've worked with advisors. They have no idea what's in my portfolio. Like no idea, because it comes out of central planning in New York or St. Louis or wherever it might be, Malvern, Pennsylvania. And the advisor has really no idea what's in the portfolio. They put you into a computer, it spits out a model, it gets traded some remote place. That is I would say in the institutional world, the view that those people have on advisors.
Yes, I agree. And it's well deserved. I would agree. I've been in the monkey ship. I left it. So I get that.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of interesting. Thinking about the institutional side and how it translates down to the retail side, because at the end of the day, we are buying funds from you.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're running money for us. You're trying to make as much money with as little risk. And if we're looking at investment grade bonds, it's highest portfolio performance, lowest risk that we can get, because everything you said is downside, right? We're trying to use you guys, leverage that together to create a portfolio so the client can achieve their goals faster with as little drag as possible. The problem is that the zombies get in the way because they don't know how the ship is run. They don't actually understand anything that's happening outside of them.
Yeah.
And they can't relate to what the client's experiencing because they don't ask the questions most of the time. And that's probably what happened to you.
That's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
There wasn't a comprehensive questionnaire.
No.
There should have been. I should have recognized it myself, but I was buried in my career. I was buried in 2 young children and my
busy.
family, and I just didn't have the bandwidth to do what needed to be done.
Yeah, it's pretty common. I appreciate you being on the show today. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been great being here.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
So fun. All right. So thank you to Andy. On our next time, we'll please follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn. Also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all your major podcast platforms. Please like and subscribe and don't miss a thing. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks for listening to The Zombie Advisor with James Knapp. Don't forget to hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. Want to learn more? Visit us at boyumwa.com, BOYUMWA.com, or give us a call at 651-289-6444. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Boyum Wealth Architects. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional investing advice. Always consult your financial advisor or other qualified service providers with any questions you may have regarding your personal investment planning.